Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Yanni Epstein, and I'm the founding chairman and CEO for ITEL BPO, uh, with its head offices based in Montego Bay, Jamaica. I also play the role of the chairman of the Global Services Council, and today we have several high-level esteemed guests and presenters that are going to be sharing many different views as well as testimonials about what we have been through as a global services sector here in Jamaica, while staying strong and continuing to grow through this global pandemic, as we know, COVID-19. A bit about myself. As I said, I'm the founding chair and CEO of ITEL BPO, which has over 3,500 employees spread across predominantly what you know as the nearshore region. Jamaica is our home, and our head office is based here in Jamaica. And we have over 70% of our overall workforce here. But we're also located in the US, Canada, the Bahamas, Mexico, and most recently, the island of St. Lucia. So, we started in 2012 as Jamaica was really starting to see the beginning of this surge that we saw from 12,000 employees to over 40,000 employees prior to the pandemic. We've obviously seen some regression in that number, just about 7,000. So we're running around 33 to 35,000 employees today as we've continued to move through this pandemic. We're very excited about this afternoon, and we have a lot to share. And as I said before, many different speakers. I want to use the opportunity to officially welcome the local and international GSS operators, prospective investors, employees, government representatives, our partners, the Inter-American Development Bank, JAMPRO, the Global Services Association of Jamaica, Heart Trust, NTA, the media, and any other onlookers to the GSS's first virtual conversation with the Jamaican GSS practitioners to discuss charting a path through unknown territories, the COVID-19 experience of the global services sector in Jamaica. The COVID-19 epidemic is a universal catastrophe of an unforeseen magnitude in decades. The impact is widespread and unprecedented. Whilst it varies from country to country, it has most likely caused social and economic downfall. Some industries impacted significantly are clients within the global services sector: hospitality, aviation, travel, and financial. This remains an unprecedented time for Jamaica's global services sector. The sector has found itself in a unique and uncharted circumstances, resulting in firms testing the parameters and strengths of their risk management and business continuity plans. No doubt, how we respond as an industry has serious implications for our viability and sustainability. It is important that we utilize this period to develop new skills that will help us move forward in a post-COVID world. So, a little bit about the Global Services Sector Skills Council, an industry-led body comprising of GSS firms in the various segments of outsourcing: BPO, KPO, HRO, LPO, and ITO, with key responsibilities to transform Jamaica's education and training systems from a supply-led to a demand-driven system, supporting the growth and the global services sector. The council includes representatives from the 3 largest tertiary institutions in Jamaica and government representatives from the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Heart Trust, NSTA, and other key stakeholders, including JAMPRO. The GSSC 4 goals in short are to reduce the skills gap and shortages, improve productivity and business performance, increase opportunities to boost the skills and the productivity of everyone in the sector's workforce. Why has the GSSC decided to host this event? In a constantly changing business context, talent and careers are high on the agenda for businesses and HR leaders alike. Activities around talent and careers need to be focused on developing the future capabilities required to build and transform the business and execute new strategies. The GSS is at the helm of preparing the workforce for evolution in careers by developing an integrated system that not only responds to demand, but have the foresight to access an impact of technology and evolving work practices on the future demand in skills and competencies. Whilst the GSS project precedes the novel COVID-19 pandemic, it is fast becoming the accelerator for the greatest workplace transformations experienced in our lifetime. It has been an opportunity for firms to redefine their business strategies. It has resulted in firms ramping up training and investment in remote working and greater focus on worker well-being. Panic or prepare? So what do we do? Panic or prepare? Panic will only result in greater fallouts and economic disruption. We must therefore position and prepare ourselves as best as possible as we begin to enter the next era of work by building or developing these soft and technical skills that employers will be looking for in the future employees. Here now, I would like to introduce Julaire Hall, who's a skill development specialist for the GSS project. Julaire, welcome. You're on mute, my dear.
Thank you, Yanni. A very pleasant afternoon, all. Yanni, you have raised some very important points about our current environment and the need for consistent pivoting to meet the needs of the dynamic global sector. Certainly, panicking is counterproductive. The very nature of the global services sector rests on productivity and efficiency. So there's no room for panic. I guess that only leaves us with the option to prepare. As skills development specialist with the Global Services Project, I am tasked to assist GSS firms to do just that, prepare. Prepare the current employees to meet the evolving needs of the clients we serve and to facilitate and enable a flexible skills development system that will output qualifiable and competent talent to meet the needs of the future. In my capacity, this is done by providing oversight and leadership on skills development interventions under the program, supporting the industry's HR and operational professionals to ensure access, quality, and relevance of training delivery to current and aspiring GSS employees. More specifically, in collaboration with the Global Services Skills Council, assist by helping firms to identify and address skills gaps, to bridge the gap between talent and career development by providing the framework for firms to develop meaningful career path plans for employees and engaging training providers to cater and respond to the gaps or needs identified. And finally, to work with key entities such as JAMPRO, the Global Services Association of Jamaica, and the Jamaica Computer Society in positioning Jamaica within the digital global services sector, and to cement its niche in areas that fit our talent profile. With that said, what is this sector skills development program all about? Joining me is Marjorie Straw, Program Director of the Global Services Sector Project, who leads the project execution unit. I don't think you'll find anyone more passionate about this project as Marjorie. Marjorie has over 20 years of experience in marketing, business operations, and managing multifunctional project teams. As program director, she provides strategic leadership, coordination, technical and financial direction and guidance on all matters pertaining to the successful administration and implementation of the project. Hi, Marjorie.
Hi, Jalair. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. All right, so Marjorie, the Skills Development for Global Services Initiative, otherwise referred to as the Global Services Sector Project, provides an opportunity for Jamaican firms in the global services sector to access the right fit, skilled employees, and increase capacity to attract investments in higher value-added segments. Tell us a little about the initiative.
Sure, Jalair. Well, this project is certainly, a testimony of the government of Jamaica's interest and commitment to the growth of the global services sector. It is a 5-year project and a $15 million US loan taken from the Inter-American Development Bank. Basically, the project focuses on 2 main areas: the skills development framework and how it strengthens it to support the sector, and the ecosystem and changing the value proposition. As you know, Jamaica is known as a nearshore destination, but mainly for BPO. Now, through this project and all its partners, Jamaica will be better positioned as operating in the higher value added segments in the GSS. And so the ecosystem will be strengthened through this project. So when we look at component 1, we look at different activities that will strengthen the talent pool, that will allow for the industry to pull from a consistent pool of skilled workers so that it can be responsive. When we speak of the ecosystem, we look at the regulatory and legal framework, as well as the national and global campaigns that the country must implement to change the perception that it currently has as just only a nearshore destination for BPO.
Okay, thank you. The points raised by Yanni earlier about preparing the workforce to meet the demands of a dynamic sector has been a recurring topical matter.
Yes.
The GSS project, in fact, was born out of that expressed need by the industry. Expanding more details on how the GSS project will address the skills gap and create a pipeline of talent for the sector.
Well, Jalair, I have to say, Yanni, not just as chair of the GSSC, but it's great to have such partnership with the GSSC, because this is an industry body that gets it. In order for us to be more competitive, to be responsive to clients, we have to move from a reactive stage to a proactive stage. And this is what the project supports in different forms and shapes. We have several initiatives to support the growth of the skills framework, and I can mention them and then get into a brief discussion around each. There's the industry upgrade strategy. There's the career pathway framework. There is the competitive fund that seeks to upskill and reskill. There's a talent platform. And we recently also implemented a digital skills curricula. So let me just run through them for the benefit of our audience. The industry skills upgrade strategy is actually very important. It is one of the first initiatives that we are implementing. And what it seeks to do is to look at the skill sets that the country will require during the next 18 to 24 months. It is informed by employer surveys, because this project checks in very closely and works very closely with the industry. And then it seeks to outline what the global trends are, and then what Jamaica will have as a comparative advantage in certain skill sets. It will also identify the niche markets and the services that could be offered with the respective skill sets required. So for instance, market research and financial research services under KPO, mobile and web development services under ITO, and new opportunities available in the provision of vertical solutions for the tourism sector and digital government services. Now, the recommendations from the industry upgrade strategy will inform and feed into the career pathway framework. And for those persons in our audience who are not familiar with what a career pathway framework is, it is basically career maps that are used to show what a prototypical career looks like in the terms of sequential position, roles, and stages. They outline the different avenues for moving within and across jobs in ways that facilitate growth and career advancement. And so the GSS project intends to provide Jamaicans with a clear understanding of the attractiveness of the sector as a job and career field by giving sector information, career pathways, and skill profiles. In fact, Jalera, let me just switch to a brief PowerPoint presentation that will reinforce what I'm trying to describe through the career pathway framework for the benefit of our audience. So the main objectives of the career pathway framework are to offer a range of job roles in the industry. It will show the critical work functions, key tasks, skills, and competencies required for each main job role. It will also allow individuals to use the career pathway framework to assess their career interest in the GSS, identify the relevant training programs to upgrade their skills, and prepare themselves for their desired job roles. Next slide. So, when the career pathway framework is built, an individual who goes on the pathway will have an interactive experience. And these slides are just an indication of what the career pathway framework may look like. When we actually get to building out the website early next year, some elements may change. But an individual going onto the website will have 4 options, 4 pathways from which to choose. So we could have something in IT outsourcing, ITS, business process outsourcing, digital media, or knowledge process outsourcing. So in the case of this PowerPoint, the individual selects IT outsourcing career pathway and clicks on the Enter Here button. When the person does so, next slide, a menu will open, if you look on the left, that will give them an option to select the ITO pathway view. This will then open into several job groups. So in the case of the ITO pathway view, we have data and artificial intelligence, we have IT networking, for example, we have software applications and cybersecurity. The individual clicks on the data and artificial intelligence, and the menu to the extreme right of your screen will give now a breakout of the job groups so that the individual can see how to navigate from the lowest level. I know it's a little tiny on the screen. For those of you who don't see, Tier 1 would be perhaps the entry level for the data analyst, and it would show the middle management level and the executive level. And for each level, there are a range of job roles that pertain to these levels that the individual can seek further information on. Next slide. And so if we look more closely to the menu on the far right, albeit a bit small, you'll see that there's a vertical progression, and you basically see the person moving from a data analyst to a data engineer, or there could be a lateral movement to an associate business analyst and then a business analyst, for example. So the career pathway is aiming to give the individual options to navigate through a particular job role or job group to get to his or her aspired role or career. Next slide. For each job role, there will be a breakout box that will give the job role description, covering key information such as the purpose of the job, the main activities and responsibilities, work experience, desired qualifications and certifications, salary ranges, etc. There'll be training links to relevant training providers and training programs, and there'll be job opportunities fed in likely from the talent platform to show existing vacancies for the position. Thank you, Jalera. Back to you. So that's the career pathway, which will actually be implemented by May of next year for the GSS. The third program that we have that strongly supports a skills development framework is the Competitive Fund. In fact, we have two programs under that fund. The first one is the apprenticeship program, and this is a 12-month program that opens and allows the industry to train or have their employees train in the middle management tier. As you know, Jalera, this has been an area where there's been a gap for some time in the industry. And I must say that when we offered this to the industry, they responded very quickly to the offer. The curriculum was developed by the Global Services Skills Council, endorsed and developed, I want to say, by the Global Services Skills Council. And then this curriculum was then shared with training providers. I want to also add that in spite of COVID this year, and we actually thought that we would have had to suspend the apprenticeship program, firms in the GSS came to the project and asked us to have the apprenticeship program. The second program within the apprenticeship is a short-term certificate program, and this is equally exciting. Imagine a clean slate, a blank slate, Jalera, where industry gets to choose its wish list. It states its wish list, and as long as the program can be implemented or conducted between 2 weeks and 6 months and provides a certificate at the end, we will support the industry by matching whatever monies they spend up to US $300. In other words, a co-funding arrangement. This is really exciting because for the first time in a long time, industry is able to respond differently to its clients' needs and to competition. It can now, with planning, plan its human capital strategy, take into account its client needs, and have the training to upskill or reskill its employees in anticipation of client requirements. The other program that we'll be launching in the third quarter of calendar next year is a talent platform. This will be the key interconnector between firms operating in the GSS and persons aspiring to work or working in the GSS. Persons will be able to post job opportunities, and employees will be, and persons aspiring will be able to post their profiles, and there will be many different ways through the talent platform that we will keep the industry engaged. And when we say the industry, the firms and the employees actively engage with each other. Finally, I should tell you, as our partners, HEART NSTA has been working with us on an enhanced job readiness curriculum, which we rolled out earlier this year. And also, we developed a digital skills curriculum. Now, for the first time, we have a structured digital skills curriculum, and the Ministry of Education is partnering with the project to roll these out in the secondary school. So over the next 3 years of the project, through the collaboration with HEART, the GSS project will train 24,000 new entrants to the GSS. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marjorie. You touched on a very important point. You know, once a niche digital skill set, you know, before it was a niche, but now it is a workplace necessity. So therefore, we have to put effort into developing the digital skills, which is going to be important in building resilience to economic shocks like COVID that we're seeing now. Also, in what you mentioned earlier, I just want to point out that with regards to the competitive fund, the apprenticeship program is currently open and the deadline for application is November 20. So for the GSS firms that, you know, the representatives that are listening, if you have not yet submitted your application, now is the time to do so. So thank you again, Marjorie. This was a very insightful conversation. Now over to you, Chair.
Thank you, Jalera.
No problem.
Thank you very much, Jalera and Marjorie. That was awesome. So in this session, before we move on to segment 2, I'm going to give a bit of a testimony. You know, given, as I said earlier, I'm wearing, you know, a couple of different hats, being the chair of the council as well as the CEO of ITEL BPO. But I'm not going to steal too much because I know Gloria, the president of the GSAJ, is going to be coming up shortly and explaining a lot of what they did as an association to help to support its members and the government as this pandemic began. But what I would say is that, you know, hats off to Gloria and the board of the GSAJ, because the foundation of what I would call Jamaica's success through this pandemic starts with the association and its leadership with Gloria, because in many times in the very beginning, before, you know, the government stepped in with the Ministry of Health kind of guiding us as to what the protocols would be, you know, Gloria started out with all of the members and ensured that we created our own protocols. And this is going back to the days when Jamaica first registered its first COVID-19 positive case on the island. And that was really the foundation of our success, because you know, several weeks later into April, when, you know, we had the issue with that workplace cluster, that was the first real cluster that took place in Jamaica, and the industry went through essentially a 14-day lockdown. You know, we worked very, very closely with the government, and the government of Jamaica has supported this industry from as far back as I've been in Jamaica in this industry back in 2004. And that support has only grown stronger as the industry has grown, and as they have recognized and understood the economic benefits of the BPO / GSS sector here in Jamaica. So, you know, with that relationship, we were able to reassess all operations. But while that reassessment was going on, we were able to continue services in the realm of essential services. So we took 5 industries: telecommunications, logistics, healthcare, government services, and utilities, and said that those 5 industries could continue to operate on premise while we went through this reassessment. And essentially, we were able to, most companies got, you know, over 80%, some up to 100% of their workforce working from home. While we reassessed, we had to go through, you know, different protocols and put up different things in place in order to protect the workforce, in order to get a stamp of approval from ODPEM, which is our disaster preparedness agency in government, so that we could continue to open and operate after that 14-day lockdown. And that is essentially the benefit of a Jamaica, and as we say in Jamaica, we little but we talawa, but that's the benefit of a country like Jamaica, because we can have that type of interaction with the public sector, the government, the people that are making the decisions from a policy perspective, in order to keep the industry alive and to keep jobs, to keep the economy generating during a time when, you know, we have lost tourism completely, which is the largest economic generator here on the island. So that support from the government and that partnership with the private sector and partnership with the association, truthfully, is a big part of why we have been successful as a nation, as we've been able to crawl through this global pandemic. So that's the roundup for, you know, segment 1. I'd like to thank Julia and Marjorie once again. And at this time, I would like to introduce Olivia Lee Campbell, who is the project manager for strategic initiatives at Sutherland Global Services, who I now know is the largest employer in Jamaica. You're on mute, just so you know.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Lovely to be here. Thank you, Yanni. Appreciate your introduction. Today, I'm going to be speaking with our industry president, Gloria, Henry, but before we go there, I just wanted to speak a little bit about some of the things that as a GSS company, Sutherland had to go through during this crisis. Now, we know that this COVID-19 pandemic is a global issue, and it challenged not just businesses around the world, but specifically our business. The companies in the global services sector, we were not at all exempt. We are a people-heavy industry. Most of what we do is dependent on the people that we employ. And you can imagine, therefore, that a global pandemic is something that would really strike at the heart of our workforce and therefore our human resource. Jamaican firms had to do a big pivot to survive and thrive in the conditions. Sutherland, no different. We really came together as a company and kind of, sat down and analyzed what do we need to do to respond to the needs of what we call our 4 Cs, or clients, or country, or community, or company. So immediately when the pandemic struck, we reached out to our clients asking, what can we do? What can we do differently? What can we do to ensure that business continues? What can we do to make sure that we continue to service your needs? In some cases, that meant negotiating a move to work from home for more brick and mortar sites. Sometimes it meant offering discounts or increasing the hours of service or the volume of service, or even pivoting to the sorts of processes and services we offered. In terms of the country, what that meant was working with the different government agencies to ensure that we collaboratively developed protocols that found a balance between continuing business without compromising health and safety of our employees especially. And it's been tremendous. The support we received locally from the industry organizations and facilitation from government ministries and agencies has really made the difference. It has ensured that Sutherland Jamaica has remained competitive. It has ensured that as the largest company in Jamaica, we have been able to hold our own. And in many cases, it really made a difference for our clients, and we're seeing the results of that now. So in terms of our company, we had to do massive education among our employees, not just to teach them how to protect themselves in the pandemic and to remain healthy and safe, but also how to pivot very quickly into a work from home environment. I'm sure everyone here will appreciate what sort of pivot and how quickly we had to do that when the pandemic hit. Today, about 45% of our total workforce, as Yanni mentioned, we are the largest BPO operator in Jamaica now. About 45% of our workforce is now working from home, and successfully so. So these are some of the things that we're very proud of. But the whole thing, what I think one of the things we're most proud of is how we have worked together with other players within the industry and with the government. And we could not have done this. This provides a perfect segue because we could not have done this without the astute leadership of our next speaker, Miss Gloria Henry. Gloria is the president of the Global Services Association of Jamaica, but she also is in her substantive role for her data and the people who pay her. She's the AVP for Customer Operations and Customer Relations at the Montego Bay Free Zone, which is a subsidiary of the Port Authority of Jamaica. Now, Gloria has been in the sector for a very long time. I'm sure for most local folks, this introduction is not really necessary, but just for those who don't know her, she is really a powerhouse, a dynamo. She's from the city of Montego Bay, and she's a former president of the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and sits on a number of boards of private and public sector companies at this time. And Gloria is our champion in the global services sector. Her leadership through this time of crisis has enabled the sector to survive and thrive But more importantly, what she has done is really positioned our industry among all others within Jamaica for the growth and making sure that we are represented and we are recognized as a sector which is going to be the engine of growth for the Jamaican economy in the years to come. I'd like to welcome Gloria. You're there.
Thank you, Olivia.
Hi, Gloria. So we're here. Yanni gave a real broad picture about some of the how the industry had to react and pivot to the pandemic. But before we get into that segment of it, I'd really like you to share with our guests what the Global Services Association of Jamaica is, what it does, and some of the activities we've been up to.
So the Global Services Association of Jamaica is formerly known as the Business Process Industry Association of Jamaica, is the representative body for global services sector companies in Jamaica. It was established in 2012 by a group of operators with commonly identified needs and objectives to advocate for better policies and interventions geared towards increasing the competitiveness of the global sector. Yanni Epstein was a founding chairman, and we actually operationalized the GSAJ in 2013 with a secretariat. Its overall goal is to lobby the government on behalf of its members to improve the operating and regulatory environment, to assist member companies as a group in positioning their interest, which is why we were able to do what we did during the COVID pandemic, and to ensure that we maintain the competitive advantages of the sector. We promote the image of the business sector in Jamaica. We assist our members where necessary, and we position ourselves as a nearshore destination of choice in the region. Pretty much, we have worked on many projects in terms of getting government support. We were instrumental in the development of the framework that supports the Jamaica Special Economic Zone Act. And even though we are still continue to lobby that agency for some of the changes that we need to see, but that is an instrumental role that we have played. We have played a role in development of the policy now that is being used for the work at home. We have developed the standard operating procedures, and we are engaged now in a very active lobby with the government for a long-term virtual solution for our work at home.
Okay, there's so much there that you said that we need to follow up on, but before we get into that, I would like us to talk a little bit, Gloria, if you could, about how exactly the pandemic affected the GSS sector. What was the response in Jamaica, and how did we as an industry manage to adapt to these changes during this trying time?
Well, thankfully, Olivia, we have always been a very resilient and adaptable sector. So we started this whole business of collaboration from we established the GSAJ as an association. And the sector was very proactive in helping its members to roll out their business continuity plans. We started before the government, as Yanni said, with our guidelines. Our guidelines were developed on the 2nd of March. We tested them amongst our members, as well as we invited the Ministry of Health and Wellness to come in and to review the guidelines and to provide direction where directions were necessary. We implemented these amongst our members, and for the most part, the members have been very collaborative and supportive. We got feedback and the input from the best practices of the members generally in Jamaica. We also were able to engage with the various agencies, the Ministry of Finance, from whom we sought a bond waiver to assist us in moving the computers out of the special economic zones for the employees that were deployed in work at home. How has that impacted us? Well, we suffered the most impact during that temporary lockdown. And Yanni explained earlier how we thrived through that lockdown because we were able to get ourselves established, our sector established as an essential service sector. And so we were able to continue to support 5 of our segments within the global services. We were also able to get the government to enshrine our protocols into the Disaster Risk Management Act, which then gave it the legal teeth that we needed to bring everybody under the ambit and umbrella of those guidelines. Not everybody, every entity rather in Jamaica is a member of the GSAJ, but once that was enshrined in the DRMA, then it was applicable to all members of the sector, whether they were members of the association or not. We suffered some economic loss during that period overall. Well, initially it was about 22%, but once we started to have persons return to the office and those who were temporarily laid off going back to work, the overall loss was about 11.62%.
Well, you know, there are some of the things that you just mentioned there, Gloria. I'd like to speak a little bit more about this collaborative approach because, you know, this pandemic kind of hit everyone. We've had nothing like it ever. So in a way, the government itself was starting from a position of, well, what are we dealing with? How did you manage to get all these competitive firms, and then on one hand, and then on the other hand, the government, which you know has its objective, it has to protect the health and welfare of the citizens, to come together? That I think is something worth fleshing out a little bit.
So we have always worked in collaboration with the government for the growth and well-being of the sector. We're partners with the government in the growth agenda of Jamaica. So there was consistent dialogue. Initially, before the lockdown, we wrote to the government to seek their assistance. We also presented a white paper to the government proactively, of course, to engage the government on steps that we felt would have been needed or could be implemented in the event that the worst case scenario arose, which it did on the 22nd of April. The Most Honorable Prime Minister, in his capacity as the Minister of Economic Growth and Job Creation, was our minister and still is actually. And so we had regular dialogue with his office and meetings with himself. We shared, you know, we were very transparent and we shared basically everything that we were doing. We shared all the guidelines. We worked cooperatively with the Ministry of Health. We allowed them to come in and do their assessments. We submitted ourselves to doing a daily report. And that daily report provided key information that the Ministry of Health could utilize. And these went to the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Economic Management, and Emergency Management rather. We worked with the Ministry of Finance and the Public Services. So we provided information on the movement of computers. We were transparent with customs. We allowed them to prescribe the different forms that we would use. And we shared that with the members. We had regular meetings. And of course, we have a WhatsApp group. So we were providing real-time updates and communication. And I must say that the stars in all of this are the members, the GSAJ operators. I mean, they were willing to subsume their individuality for the collective good. They share their best practices. If ITEL was doing something that was working, like Yanni shared many things on ventilation systems, Teleperformance shared a lot on, you know, some of the practices that they implemented, hand washing facilities, external dining. We shared best practices on transportation, and we pulled from the input and expertise of all the members. So really it was a collective effort.
Yes, I remember it was no small feat. Let's, you know, that's not understated. But by its very nature, the global service sector firms are accustomed to addressing risks. Now, you've just described some of the proactive steps that the industry, the association, and its members took. But were there any shortcomings worth noting? And how did the GSAJ respond to addressing those shortcomings, for this and for future high-risk events?
Well, one, of course, the not having as a prescribed regulatory body, because as you know, we have to use moral suasion and peer pressure to get everyone to conform to, the standards that we establish. So not having a regulatory body that would be in charge of all GSS firms in Jamaica, that was one of the shortcomings. So we pretty much had to find various creative ways to get non-members of the GSAJ to participate and to adopt the guidelines, which of course, once there was any infractions or infections in any of the entities, it reverberated negatively, adversely on the entire sector. So that was one of the issues that we faced. But essentially, I think that because we were proactive, because we started so early, because the GSS firms typically have their business continuity plans in place, and so they are accustomed to responding swiftly and quickly to disasters. It was not so much of an issue. It took us a little while to get the Ministry of Health on board, because of course this is a new pandemic. They were overwhelmed. They were responding to every sector in Jamaica. So it took us some time to get that, but we were able to function even before they got involved.
One of the things that we did in Jamaica that I'd like you to speak just a little bit on. Under the GSS project, the GSAJ was able to secure a consultancy. Now, for a little bit of background, remember how proactive you mentioned we were. I remember part of that proactivity being those meetings where the membership would come in, we'd collate all our best practices, we'd talk through what's practical, what's not practical, what can happen in terms of arranging the site and the sites and what's possible to do. Tell us a little bit about how the project itself was able to impact our response to this pandemic situation.
Well, one of the things that we quickly recognized that we needed to do was to get a science-based approach to disaster risk management. So, of course, that we responded to the risk because we're accustomed to doing that, and we were proactive. But we were able to seek assistance from the GSS project through JAMPRO to hire a consultant to help us to develop a disaster risk management framework. And that disaster risk management framework is going to deal with a broad-based risk management response for the GSS firms. Under this, we've secured a consultant, and the consultant will do the requisite research and will help us to design the minimum standards that will support the GSAJ. It will help to secure the sector and ensure that we are better able to respond to disasters, and not just the COVID pandemic, but any other disaster that might recur in the future. It will help us to increase capacity to deal with the long-term effect of any outbreak. As you know, we've had an outbreak in one of our BPO sites. It will ensure that we are able to roll out our business continuity plans in any worst case scenario that should come up. And most importantly, of course, it will set the minimum standard for the association and its members, whether they are part of the GSAJ or just part of the global landscape in Jamaica generally.
Well, I know there are many other speakers this afternoon, so I won't take up too much. Just one last question. However, I do want to chide you on your modesty, because we really achieved something spectacular here in Jamaica. And I think we need to say this out loud and out strong, because aside from that workplace cluster that impacted our numbers, overall throughout the BPO sector, which is a high, human resource intensive sector, we have had a phenomenally low COVID-19 positivity rate. And for that, we really have to congratulate ourselves as an industry and you as our president for your leadership. But with other representatives from, all over other countries, other regions joining us here today in similar industries in the GSS industry, what would be your advice for building resiliency in a dynamic industry?
Well, yes, I'm happy you mentioned that very low infection rate, Olivia, because it's less than 1%. So it's definitely commendable to all the GSS operators in Jamaica. It's important to have a plan, to have a business continuity plan. It's important to have trust amongst your members. It's important to collaborate and to share information. When you have trust, you can get the best out of your members from the best practices. It's very important to be proactive. I can't say that enough, because that was what helped us. The fact that we were ahead of the game when Jamaica finally recorded its first case. And it's also important to have a flexible HR strategy, because as you all have mentioned, we've had to pivot to work at home very quickly. And we were able to do that because we have that flexibility in our HR policies. We were able to quickly do things like disregard things like attendance, KPIs. We were able to, put in place quickly work at home criteria and those kinds of things. So it's very important to have that kind of framework in place to support any response strategy to anything like a COVID pandemic now and in the future.
Well, thank you, Gloria. We're just about coming up on time for this segment. I know many of you have lots of questions. The comment section is open. Please pose any questions you would like to ask about Jamaica's response and reaction to the pandemic and what we've been doing here. And before I flip over back to Yanni, just want to say one more time what a huge difference astute leadership makes during a time of crisis. Michelle Obama says that being president doesn't change who you are, it reveals who you are. And I think we have really come to understand what our dynamic president has been about, because as you said, we have made it through so far this crisis. And while we did take a hit, we have proved to be very resilient, and we are going to come back stronger than ever, abiding by the protocols. So back over to you, Yanni. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Olivia, and thank you, Gloria. And I second everything you've said about her fearless dedication and leadership to this industry. I've known Gloria since 2004, and she's only gotten stronger. So kudos to you, and thank you for your support, Gloria. And ladies, thank you for a great session. Our late Bob Marley has a song that says, "You're gonna tired to see my face." So once again, I'm here to give you a brief testimony as to how ITEL was called to the charge of the pandemic here in Jamaica. So, the end of March this year, the Ministry of Health reached out asking for call center support. They had launched a hotline, 1-888-1-LOVE, which was really and truly the baseline for individuals who, may have known somebody that has come into contact with someone with COVID-19. They didn't know what to do. Somebody may be having symptoms and they're not sure what to do. Just wanted to talk to someone while they were going through the process of being in isolation, and they're scared and they're not sure what to expect next. And we were called upon by the Ministry of Health to help them provide services. So, being a Jamaican-born company, we stepped up to the charge immediately, and through over 20 individuals to answer calls on a regular basis. And in the beginning, we were handling several thousand calls a day. And that evolved a little later on to also handling support to the Ministry of National Security as well, because in June, when Jamaica started to allow Jamaicans and then allow travelers to come back into the country, there was a process that needed to be done through the COVID website, that basically you'd have to upload information and a negative test result, and then you'd be given an approval to present with to immigration upon arrival. So we helped with those from emails and calls as well to individuals wanting to come back to Jamaica. How do I get it? The typical question and answers that you get. And we provided that support now for over 32 weeks as a complete donation in support of the government and the pandemic here in Jamaica as ITA VPO. So I would like to, I've only heard the stories from our team members, and I'd like to give a shout out and congratulate the team members on the front line with our staff, as well as our management team that has been able to support the 888 One Love hotline since the end of March, and we continue to support it to this date to ensure that our nationals at home that have concerns about the COVID-19 pandemic could get a hold of an individual that was trained to be able to provide them answers and support and confidence that everything was going to be all right. As well as when Jamaicans are ready to come home and Jamaica is ready to accept travelers, that we're able to support people coming back to Jamaica, whether it be from the diaspora or people coming to Jamaica on holiday. So it's been a huge feat, and I want to congratulate my team members. I also want to congratulate and thank the support arm of the Ministry of Health and those that have been on the front line supporting everyone through this pandemic here in Jamaica. So without further ado, I would like to transition into the next part of today's presentation. And I'd like to introduce Mr. Tim Casey, who is the President and CEO for Teleperformance. He has been in this position since 2007 and has been in the call center industry since 1984. But Tim, you don't look like you've been in the industry since 1984. So without further ado, somebody who is well experienced, works for one of the largest BPOs in the world, and a big supporter to Jamaica for well over 15 years now. Mr. Tim Casey, welcome.
Thank you, Yanni. I think after this year, if I didn't look like I've been in the industry since 1984, I sure will by December. It's been a trying year for all of us. I think we can all agree on that. Yeah, I'm the president and CEO of Teleperformance here in Jamaica. I'm also the CEO of the Accounts Receivable Management division of Teleperformance worldwide. I want to give a little background and context to what is Teleperformance, for those of you who might not be as familiar with them. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to talk a little bit about how Jamaica has handled the pandemic, and kind of compare that to some other places around the globe where we operate that handled it differently. But so Teleperformance is a global leader in the BPO outsourcing space. Formed in 1978 in Paris, France. It's a publicly traded company on the Euronext, over $6 billion US dollars in 2019. We have operate in 80 different countries, including Jamaica, 330,000 plus employees around the globe, servicing well over thousands of clients, of course, and 265 languages and dialects serviced. In Jamaica, which is close to my heart, when I'm not here in Jamaica, I call Chicago home. But in Jamaica, we have just over 4,000 employees to date. We've been operating on the island since 1999. It started out as a boutique debt collection specialty shop. And today we service all lines of business. You can imagine since 1984, I had thought I had done it all, but then in 2007, we came down here and acquired Alliance One, the company that was running the debt collection operation. So I had to become a debt collection expert pretty quickly. So it's nice to be part of an organization that has been here on the ground for such a long time and watched itself evolve, as well as the industry here in Jamaica. From a pandemic standpoint, we were faced with the same things everyone else was. Today, well, let's back up to March. Mid-March, Teleperformance had roughly 9,000 work-at-home agents around the globe. We had 0 here in Jamaica. Today, Teleperformance has over 220,000 work-at-home employees, and here in Jamaica, we have about 1,100, close to 1,200. As the pandemic unfolded, as others mentioned, we had the stricter lockdown in April of this year. And at that point, we wanted to, first off, take care of our employees, and secondly, take care of our clients. So we, at that time, we had about 1,000 agents working at home come late April, but about 500 of those were working out of a hotel. So at Teleperformance, we coined work at home, called WAHA, work at home agents. So we coined the phrase WAHO, work at hotel. So we moved very quickly, and were able to partner with a local hotel in Montego Bay to get folks there who didn't have the capacity, didn't have the infrastructure to work at home. So we were able to satisfy some demands of those clients, as well as keep folks employed. In fact, if I wasn't quarantined, not really quarantined, but we're stuck in Chicago at the time, weren't able to travel down here, I was kind of jealous, because I looked at the hotel and what the folks and the accommodations that they had, and 3 free meals every single day. So congrats to those folks that were able to sacrifice and truly stay there at a hotel for as long as 30 days away from their families to stay safe and produce for our clients. So great job. Within Teleperformance, so I mentioned, how was the pandemic handled in other places? Well, I can tell you that, and I'm sure Yanni and others here in Jamaica can say the same story, but we benefited more than not with what happened in other places around the globe. For instance, there was very strict shutdowns in Manila that were back in April. So we had a lot of clients and other clients of other companies looking for a home in order to service their customers. Well, Jamaica and Teleperformance, we were able to launch several new clients into this geography very quickly. And as we were launching them, we were sending the folks home. So a lot was going on at that time. And within Teleperformance, I can tell you, based off of the help from the Global Services Council and the companies, Yanni and Gloria and the others, in the cooperation, Teleperformance Jamaica is thought of and used as one of the benchmarks within all of teleperformance and how to handle yourselves during a pandemic. No one had a roadmap for this, so there was no perfect way through it, and there still isn't. But through sharing best practices and moving quickly and really having the sector and the government behind us and caring about our important sector and the employees that service it, we are able to stay open overall through this whole pandemic. In other countries, that didn't happen. So kudos to the government and how they have handled this pandemic to date. It's just been tremendous. So we talk about it in our broader teleperformance meetings that go all the way up to the chairman of the board. Next, I wanted to touch a bit on, because I get asked a lot of times, well, how is Jamaica looked at within the light of teleperformance? You guys are operating in 80 countries. What do you think about Jamaica? You know, we want to grow this industry, and is it a viable place? And of course, we all know it's not only viable, it's thriving. And within teleperformance, for some of the reasons I already mentioned, but I think the biggest reason why Jamaica is a excellent location for our type of services is because of the people and the resiliency and the we can do anything attitude that the people in Jamaica have. That's recognized within teleperformance, and by the growth we've all seen, it's recognized by the industry. So I would expect as we move forward that the growth will not slow down. And I think the initiatives that have been talked about on this call in an earlier session here with Marjorie and the strengthening of the talent pool. At first reaction of BPO, such as myself, you might think, oh boy, you know, we're going to raise the bar in, you know, wages and everything. How are we going to stay a big value add in the BPO sector? But that's not the way to think about it. The way I think about it is we're going to have stronger individuals moving forward with a skill set that is here in Jamaica, but maybe not as wide as we want to see it. As I look at our business and I compare maybe to Yanni, who I believe was born, his company was born here in Jamaica, where I'm guessing as he's expanded around the globe, as he mentioned, he was able to probably keep his base here in Jamaica and use some of that great talent. From a teleperformance standpoint, you know, we have India, we have the Philippines, we have, of course, the US and all these other places. So we're getting a lot of support from other places around the globe and our operations here in Jamaica. I'd like to see that continue to change, where we're able to support other aspects and other operations throughout teleperformance globally. And with what I'm hearing here today, I'm excited that that will happen. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Diane Edwards. Diane is a dear friend and the president of JAMPRO. Diane, are you with us? You're on mute. You're still on mute. There you go. If I could unmute you, I would.
Yeah, there we go.
There you are. Perfect.
Yeah, I was just saying I'm definitely with you, and I'm with you on that comment about anything. We can do anything in Jamaica because we are crazy enough to have a bobsled team with no eye. We can do anything. I agree.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, I think what we are really excited about with this industry and with this project, the GSS project, is how we've been able to create this public-private partnership. Because I think as an economic development agency, we're in government, but I keep saying we're a government agency with a private sector ethos. And I think Yanni would agree with that. Our focus in JAMPRO is really to make life easier for our clients, and our clients are business, local business and international business. And so that's what we really are about is how do we develop an ecosystem in Jamaica which is attractive to business, and how do we develop the ecosystem in which business can thrive. And what this GSS project has been enabled us to do is to really build out the skill sets that Jamaica needs going into the future. I think this is a really futuristic project, actually, because it really is looking at the future of industry and the future of information technology business, and how can Jamaica really become a player in the international information technology business. And I think we have all the assets to enable us to do that. And the fact that companies like Teleperformance come to Jamaica, and like Sutherland Global, Conduent, etc., come to Jamaica, find a home here and are happy here, and find a workforce that is willing, able, young, adaptable, culturally attuned to what you want, and really willing to learn and get on board. I think that's what makes this an exciting place to do business. And that's what we saw in this industry probably about 10 years ago when we started promoting this industry. So I think it's really a moment that we have seized, and the fact that what Marjorie was talking about, the industry upgrade strategy and the career path, I think that is going to add a whole nother dimension to the industry in Jamaica, and that young people will really start to see this as a long-term career opportunity. Some already do, because one of the things that's really great about it is how people have been able to move from the shop floor all the way up to country manager, through operations manager, through supervisor, through all the levels. And I think that's what has kept them on board, kept them interested, kept them excited, and kept them coming back for more. So I'm sure that's been your experience, Tim.
No, I muted myself. So. Absolutely. And it's come a long way, hasn't it, since my first interaction here on the island was in 2007, or early 2008, actually. And I think that's when I first met some of the folks from JamPro. And the organization has done a lot for the industry, and I feel like it's accelerating now. I don't feel like it absolutely is accelerating now. The cooperation and the attention, good attention, not bad, good attention that we get from the government is really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, we're here to support the development of the industry. We have a vision for this industry, because what's, I think, really important is we have a breadth of industry in Jamaica. We have the international component, the global companies that are located in Jamaica, but we also have the companies like Yanni's company and like about 80 other local tech sector companies that are really offering the full gamut of services, from client servicing and in the outsourcing business, to technology, to software development, to knowledge process outsourcing, to web applications, web development, applications development, data analytics. There are a range of services now that are offered by Jamaican companies. And so I think the next frontier for us is to develop this whole industry as a holistic industry moving forward. So doing customer service, but also doing back office shared services, and really broadening the range of applications. I mean, we produce some of the best nurses on the planet. And the trouble we have is that we don't retain enough of them. And my conviction is that when we start to deepen the healthcare services that we are now offering, we're going to retain more of them. So these are the kinds of opportunities that we have with this project, to upskill, reskill, people for the needs of an industry that is only going to expand because of COVID. I mean, we wouldn't be talking virtually if it weren't for COVID. We'd probably be in a room somewhere. But this way, we have a much greater footprint, and that's what's really exciting about the moment that we're in.
I agree. So as we get through COVID, knock on whatever you're knocking on, just hopefully sooner than later, how do you see the role of JAMPRO in increasing like the value chain here in Jamaica?
Well, what I see JAMPRO doing is expanding our role. So we have been sort of the coordinating body for the industry. We've always done that, coordinating between government and the private sector. So for instance, in the whole question of work from home, we have a special economic zone authority and a special economic zone legislation, which offers companies the opportunity to operate outside of the customs area of Jamaica. So work from home might seem simple to some people, especially if you're coming from the US, but for us it's not that simple, because when the legislation was passed, it was never anticipated. So we have had to really encourage and stimulate and advocate and persuade the government agencies to accept work from home and to amend their regulations to allow this. And so that's the kind of advocacy that JAMPRO can do and continues to do. What we are doing now is really working with the GSS project to develop a digital global sector strategy. So how do we develop, as I said, a holistic view of the industry and integrate the industry into the global IT industry, and how do we become more of an IT hub? And that's two-pronged, really. It's doing consultancies and contracts for companies globally, but it's also developing our own products and solving our own problems, because we're in the category of what they call a small island developing state. That means that we will be able to develop responses to problems and solutions to problems that we will be able to sell or to market to other countries, similar to ourselves, similar in size, but not only similar in size, sometimes much bigger than ourselves, but who have the same problems. So, you know, we're doing some quite innovative things here now, because digital is now on everybody's mind. That's one thing COVID has done, is put everyone into the digital mind space. So that's really important, because we're going to see a real explosion of fintech and agtech and all different types of technology integrated into Jamaica, the Jamaican economy. And that, I think, is really critical for growing out our IT space.
Very good. Diane, appreciate your words here. It's really important, the work that JAMPRO has done, like I said, over the years, and how it's accelerating now and working together with the GSS and the organization. So thank you, and it's great to talk to you again.
Yeah, likewise. And what's the next horizon for Teleperformance? I guess I can turn it around to you.
Well, you know, the work at home situation here in Jamaica, I think, is going to allow the island to continue to grow, because you think about it, it shouldn't matter where you live any longer. So now it's about those skills that we've been talking about building within the workforce. But you can't create a winning attitude. And that's a culture and attitude that's here in Jamaica, I think, could be capitalized on, and will continue to grow the brick and mortar, because I think this is the amount of growth that's needed that can be done here on this island is going to require that. But at the same time, think how many more jobs we can create if 35% of the workforce can work from home. And I can tell you from our experience with the clients that we work with, most of them expect and want a hybrid model for the long-term future. brick and mortar and work from home. Some want all work from home, some want no work from home, but in the middle is the majority of our clients.
Okay, Yanni, I saw a question that appeared on the screen, but it was kind of quick. It's gone. I don't know if you can see it.
Tell me what you think it was referencing, and I will try and see if I can find it.
It went really quickly, so I mean, I wasn't able to read it.
I know that the ladies in the background are collating all of the questions.
Okay, so the Q&A is gonna come shortly then.
Yeah, the Q&A will come shortly, and I will bring up those as they share them with me. So hopefully it's captured, and I'll be able to pose it to you.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I really wanted to share is how we have been able to work with the private sector, because I think that's really one of the secret sauces that Jamaica has, because I think we have a very vibrant private sector that has actually taken this industry on and run with it. That's what Gloria and the GSAJ have been able to do. And I think it's interesting for other countries to know that JAMPRO actually seed funded the GSAJ when it started. JAMPRO actually wanted a strong private sector as an interlocutor, because the private sector can say things that we can't say to government. The private sector can lobby for things that we can't lobby for. So we really work hand in glove with the private sector. And I think that for other IPAs, I think that is a critical lesson. We are involved with IPAs across the region because we're part of the Caribbean Association of IPAs, investment promotion agencies. And what we have found, they all have the same challenge, that sometimes what the private sector wants, government doesn't really understand that. So they need someone to interpret that for them. And so that's what I meant about JAMPRO being a government agency with a private sector ethos, because I know a lot of government agencies think that we always take the private sector side against government, but not really apologizing for that, because I really think this is our role, to be the voice of the private sector in government and to interpret, if you want, to understand government regulations and legislation, but to interpret for them what the private sector wants and what will help the private sector to thrive. So we have some really important projects that we are doing on the ease of doing business and to improve the ease of doing business. And at every step of the way, we are consulting with the private sector. So I think one of the critical points about this program is the GSSC, the Global Services Skills Council that Yanni leads, because what that is doing is changing the whole philosophy of education and training in Jamaica. So for the first time, you have educational institutions that are now saying, okay, I need to tailor make my curricula to what the market wants. Most of them have never even thought about the market. They're just doing, we're putting on this course and we'll see who comes. But now in the council, you're really saying, here are the employers, this is what we want, this is what the next 5 years of skills development will look like. So you need to be tailoring your courses to what we need, so you can ensure that when your graduates come out, they'll have a job. And that, to me, is a huge philosophical shift. And I think that that is one of the innovations that this project has actually operated. It may seem small to some people, but I think it is a huge philosophical shift. And we see this actually in action, because our national training agency, NSTA, is really our partner in developing this program and in really turning their minds to, now we have to put out graduates that can actually get a job. So before, they were just doing training pretty much on parallel tracks. But what is happening now is that the National Training Agency works hand in glove with employers. In fact, in the BPO industry, a lot of the training is provided by the HR departments and managers of the outsourcing companies. So the outsourcing companies can say, oh yeah, I like that person, I like that person. So they can actually pick from the graduating class who they want to employ immediately. So, you know, we've had programs with 90% employment at the end of the program because of that involvement at an early stage of those HR managers. So yeah, I think we're doing some quite far-reaching things here, which I think a lot of countries can learn from.
Thank you very much, Diane. And as we wrap up this session here, and I go through some of the takeaways. I mean, you know, as I've seen JAMPRO evolve, in particular under your leadership, yes, it has been transformed from that, you know, known government agency that all you do is look for investment to being an all-encompassing, you know, 360 one-stop shop. More of a private sector mindset to drive investment to Jamaica. Not only just get the investment, but to walk the investors through the entire process, whether, like you said, whether that be local or international investors, through the process, through the red tape, through the rigmarole that you know businesses go through. And it has certainly shown itself not only for this sector, but other sectors in Jamaica that, you know, we are open for business pre-COVID, and we're still open for business during COVID, and we'll be even stronger for business post-COVID because of what JAMPRO is doing through your leadership. So thank you for your session today as well. And as you heard it, you know, from Tim, you know, teleperformance has been able to continue to grow, in particular in Jamaica. Particularly because of how the government and the GSSAJ and all of us operators have been able to manage this pandemic, and that's a true testament to the power of partnership with the public and the private sector here in Jamaica, and why we've been successful. Another takeaway from Tim that I thought was really a huge testimony to Jamaica is that Teleperformance JA has essentially become a case study for all teleperformances around the world, which is not only the partnership of the public and private sector, but more importantly, the power of their frontline team that's doing the job on a daily basis for their clients. You know, Gloria gave us a massive overview of what the GSAJ has done, and how it has been able to protect and lessen the impact of COVID through this pandemic. And it's been a huge feat, and there's been many sleepless nights that she has had, but she has worked tirelessly with everyone in order to ensure that we have remained successful. You know, to Olivia, you know, speaking from another global operator, Sutherland, as to how they've been able to pivot in Jamaica and continue to remain competitive in the global marketplace. You know, to Jalaire and Marjorie, who shared, you know, as detailed as we could be in a very short period of time, you know, the plans for the GSS project and how we intend to impact every Jamaican who wants to either grow up the value chain or to enter the industry from the ground level. You know, one thing that must be said before we transition here into the last section of our question and answers, and it can't be said enough. And I say this to, you know, other government relations that we have in other countries, is the public-private partnership that we have here in Jamaica is a real driving force to our success. And the Honorable Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, who is also the Minister of Economic Growth and Job Creation, who is our minister in this industry, has really made sure and ensured that through this pandemic, not just BPO, but all sectors are put to the forefront, because every sector matters to the economic growth of Jamaica. Some obviously more than others, but in a state like where you get the rug ripped under you overnight, every sector becomes your number one sector. And through his leadership, they have certainly managed the economy in a global pandemic as a small nation better than some large nations globally. So I wanted to point that out as well. As we continue to grow, people ask, why do we think in Jamaica we're going to continue to grow? And Tim made a very, very good point about what happened in the Philippines. They had a very harsh stance of locking down. And the Philippines is the largest country for customer care in the world. And many companies had a lot of their eggs in that basket. And I think what we're going to continue to see is a transition to this region that will balance people's business a lot more. And that means companies that are more diverse through this region will see a huge uptick in business opportunities over the years to come. And I think that Jamaica, being the largest English-speaking country in this region, as a country going into this pandemic, was well spoken about and well thought after by foreign investors, that Jamaica is only going to continue to grow. And as we look at employing over 50,000 people, that target is not a difficult target for us as we continue to grow. And that target would also not be difficult given the fact of the GSS project that is taking us up the value chain and is preparing more people for work. So with that being said, I would like to thank everybody who has presented here today. You've all added tremendous value to the story that we have been through as a country and we continue to go through, and why we certainly feel it fit that we have charted a path through unknown territories through the COVID-19 experience of the global services sector here in Jamaica. So the last thing I'd say before we move on to questions and answers is one thing that we have found very necessary as a nation is we have to let the protocols work. We have to ensure that we are reminding our staff on a day-to-day basis. You're going into public spaces, you're going into your workplaces, wear your mask, wash your hands every 20 minutes, social distance, and ensure that you are staying home if you are not feeling well or if you've come into contact with someone with COVID-19. If we continue to be very strong with these protocols, we can all continue to work, we can all continue to generate our economies, we can all keep our family members and ourselves safe, and continue to fly the Jamaican flag as to why we are the best destination in this region for the global services sector. So without further ado, we're going to move into the question and answer session. And here's the first question that we have from Diana Hyman is, how will this unknown path truthfully bring value to our college graduates? Dan, I think you somewhat touched on that in your closing session a while ago. So maybe you want to just kind of regurgitate what you had said to kind of more in-depthly explain why you feel the GSS project is going to support our college graduates.
Sure, thanks for that, Yanni, and thanks from Diana Hyman for that question. The thing is that a lot of people think that outsourcing is merely for entry-level tier 1 customer support operators, and that's absolutely not the case. The thing about the IT industry is every single non-core business of any major business or even a small business can be outsourced. So outsourcing covers finance and accounting, HR, legal, IT services. It covers the wide range of any service, really. So what that means is that a lot of the programs that graduates of universities are actually following now can lead them to outsourcing. One of the biggest areas of outsourcing, for instance, globally, is contract management. So contract management is not an entry-level skill. It requires legal, it requires project management capabilities, it requires graduate level operations. So anybody studying almost any discipline can be involved in outsourcing. One of the shared services operations in Jamaica, for instance, employs data analysts, people who crunch big numbers, big data. And this actually is a Big Four accounting firm doing work for all their North American operations. They are doing report writing. They are doing proposal writing. So for their internal clients in the North American market, they're writing proposals to their clients, but they're having it done here in Kingston. So what I'm saying is that any college graduate, I spoke of nursing, they're just an endless set of possibilities within this industry for graduates. Unfortunately, people don't really understand that yet. So we have to do a better job of communicating the breadth of this industry to people who are graduating from college. And that's what we are engaged with under this program, is to do an awareness campaign, which will build the understanding of people locally as to how they can get into this industry, and that career pathway that Marjorie spoke about earlier on will show them some of the ways that they can build their careers over time being in this industry. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
I hope so too. Thank you, Diane. What are some of the strategies to get 45% of the persons working from home? Was that something that Sutherland had piloted before? Olivia, why don't we bring Olivia back in, seeing as the question was posed specifically to Sutherland.
Hi, I'd be happy to answer that. Well, let's, go back to March, April. It feels like about 20 years ago. But at the time that we began the pivot to work at home, there were so many unknowns. The virus was still new. A lot of people didn't understand it. The government was, still experimenting. Do we lock down the whole country? Do we do a partial lockdown? How much do you? So a bit of it required some strong leadership. And what we did as an organization is we really got together and we said, how can we logistically get this done and in the shortest possible time? The first thing that we did is we did a survey right among all of our employees to understand the willingness to do work at home and the capacity to do work at home. We also spoke to our clients to find out, whether they would be okay with some of their business being conducted outside of the brick and mortar sites, which would have required adjustments to contracts and that sort of thing. Once we had a baseline assessment of who was able to, who was willing to, we started doing a health and safety inspection. So our safety and security team went to every single home to ensure things like your broadband capacity was up, to ensure that your physical surroundings were secure enough to be able to conduct our clients' business from within your household, that sort of thing, to make sure that the environment was conducive to continuing work. After that, we had to do training because while many of our managers and senior level officers in the company are quite, versed and familiar in work at home. The average worker was used to coming into a brick and mortar site, doing their work, and then going home. So things, techniques, how to just, keep your environment safe, how to, adapt to the change to this new normal of working from home was something that we had to do a fair bit of training of our employees. After that, we really had to work with the government through the BPIA, the Global Services Association, because the agreement with the government was that we were able to move our computers and equipment out of brick and mortar sites and into home environments, but that we had to keep a record of what went where and that sort of thing. We had to do an inventory of every single item that we place in folks' homes, that sort of thing. And we also had to work with our service providers, because in many instances we had employees who did not have strong broadband service or did not have any broadband service. So it was a little bit, there was a little bit of upheaval for a short time. For some period of time, we did have to do a temporary furlough of a few of our workers so that we could ensure that they got their home environments appropriately configured to do work at home, whether it is they got their broadband service installed or they, reconfigured their homes. And interestingly, the majority of that 45% of our workforce that we got on to work at home, the vast majority of them, that happened within a space of 2 to 3 weeks, because we really didn't have that much time. If we all remember how the atmosphere was in March and April, when there was so much misinformation, there was are we going to lock down? Are we not going to lock down? So Sutherland was one of the companies that didn't really wait too long to discover what was going to happen. We took the decision that, look here, this is our new normal. This is where we're going to be going with our industry. So we have to make this pivot. We had done about 2 years ago a small pilot, and we abandoned that pilot because there was no need to work from home en masse. There was this idea, well, we'll check it out. A couple of people participated, but it wasn't something that, really gave us any serious learning to move off with. We basically tried something, it wasn't. So all of this learning, all of this happened in a very short space of time. And I'm sure it was like that with all the companies in Jamaica, because it was a very tight window that we had to be able to facilitate this. The last stage of it was the deployment of equipment. Of course, we would go to every single home that had been previously inspected, and our technicians would install the equipment in the home and have conversations with our employees about, okay, these are, the requirements, these are security requirements, this is how we have to operate in this environment. So it's, and work at home has been going well for us. It has been a very important tool to our survival and resilience to this crisis, because we have been able to keep business going, and indeed attract more business. As a matter of fact, virtually all the people who went on temporary furlough have since been brought back on to full positions, in the past couple of months, as they have acquired broadband service or they have modified their homes to be able to work. And the reaction we're getting from our employees is pretty good. A lot of them had issues getting to work on time, whether it's because of public transportation or family commitments, And a lot of these issues just went poof, just went away, because now you can wake up, you can get to work on time, you can put your all in, you're in a comfortable environment, and we are still working with it. We're still working with the GSAJ and Gloria and Yanni to see how we can get the government to come on board to making work from home a permanent feature of the Jamaica GSS landscape. So that's, I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much, Olivia. So we have two more questions. One is envisioned that to extend the flows of this initiative to the rest of the region. Who would be best to answer that one? Maybe Marjorie?
I do know that the IDB is willing to explore how it can support other countries in the region. And I'm sure that through this forum today that the IDB will reach out and make contact with any country that is interested in exploring how it could have a similar initiative. Jamaica, as always, we are always ready to share knowledge. That's something we've consistently done through the years. JAMPRO has been a great facilitator for knowledge sharing in the region, and I'd be happy to speak to anyone about the project if they wish to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Marjorie. Next question. Can entrepreneurs or small businesses get involved in the GSS project? If so, yes, and how? Marjorie, you want to take that one again?
Sure. The way that entrepreneurs or small businesses can get involved in the GSS is by taking advantage of the funding arrangement. I would say that's one of the biggest supports you have. We know that training can represent a high percentage, well over 10-15% of your operational cost. So through the GSS project and the competitive fund, we can actually help you to defray some of that cost, or better said, to maximize your training dollars. If your original budget could only train 10 persons, through the fund and through the co-funding arrangement, we could probably help you to extend that training to 15 persons. We also want you to keep an eye out for the talent platform, because that's the way you will be able to have a closer pulse on what is happening on the industry. As I mentioned earlier, the talent platform will be rolled out somewhere around September, October of 2021, and it's going to be one of the most dynamic spaces through which one can engage with the industry. So the fund, which we'll be happy to, we'll put it in the chat for you, the info competitive fund _GSS at jamprocorp.com, or you can email me directly and I'll talk you through what the fund offers and the exact programs that you can take advantage of. Thank you.
And your email, Marjorie?
It would be mstraw_GSS at jamprocorp.com. I'll ask the team to put it in the chat for the public chat to see.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marjorie. And the last one, I wanted to know more information about how smooth it was setting up the hotel space for work from home and how many persons agreed to it. That's for Tim. So can we bring back Tim to answer that question?
So it was a mad rush to get all the logistics done. It started with, we had to have wired connections, so it ruled out hotels that only had Wi-Fi, because that's what was needed for our work at home platform at that time. So the first thing was contacting hotels in the area, and we were able to secure rooms at the Montego Bay Holiday Inn. And the second piece was then how many employees were interested. And then the third piece was how many clients were interested, because you can imagine the cost to put up employees in hotel rooms and feed them 3 times a day is not inexpensive as it compares to what the clients get charged for our services down here. Fortunately, we had willing clients, willing employees, and a willing partner in the Montego Bay Holiday Inn. We were able to accomplish it. And it went a long way with our clients and how thinking out of the box and being able to mobilize very quickly. So thanks to Jake Becker and the team on the ground here in Jamaica and all that they were able to accomplish. Oh, the other thing was in order to make the cost work, we had to ask employees who would they like to be their roommate, because in most cases we had double occupancy. So that was the last piece hurdle, or one of the hurdles that we were able to get over. Something I hope we don't have to do again, but it was a great experience of everyone pulling together.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much, Tim, for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. What a success this afternoon was. I want to thank Jalaire, Marjorie, Olivia, Gloria, Tim, Diane for sharing all your experiences and being a part of this session today. I'd also like to thank the team in the background, Tanae and Luana, who has been helping us and making sure that this technology platform has worked successfully. I think today was a great success. You heard it from all of the players that are involved, both public and private sector, as to how Jamaica has navigated through these uncharted territories, waters, and time. So as we continue to grow and continue to be successful, thank you to everybody, and we hope that you all out there enjoyed our presentation today. So all the best.
Thank you, Yanni.